Ladies and gentlemen, the following is scheduled for one fall. It is time for That Way Cool Wrestling Show!
Hey everybody, it's That Way Cool Wrestling Show. My name is Danny J, along with my man, LeGrande Onslaught Jackson, Mad Mark Lindsay.
Hey now.
And once again, the brothers Mackentyre in the house, Angus and Johnny. Guys,
Hey now.
thanks for coming on again.
It's been your pleasure.
Yes, it has. Thank you very much.
for having
Thank you very
us.
much, yes. We got a great show for you. Make sure you check us out at That Way Cool Wrestling Show on Facebook, and then also on the website, which is thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com. Charles Gregory, I want to give him shouts out. He's going to be back next week.
I think he's finally starting to wrap that assignment up.
I think he is. He's been on his
I can't wait
for
to
3
hear his
weeks.
report.
It's all because
Expensive.
he's trying to get out of his gym contract. So it's been taking him a while.
He still wants to go that second Wednesday or whatever it is with the pizza.
And I think he and he and Dolph Ziggler went off for a nice romantic weekend, just the two of them. So he's gonna beat the crap out of him when he comes
and some
back in.
incense.
I'm just saying, sailing away. Charles, we love you. We got a great show today. Before everybody tunes out and says, I don't know what's going on with this show, we're going to be talking about spot wrestling, and also regular wrestling. Are the spots too much? What is spot wrestling? We're going to talk about all that today. For those who don't understand exactly what we're saying, if you turn on YouTube and look at any kind of crazy matches, if you look up crazy matches or anything like that, you're probably going to see some what would be referred to as spot wrestling. And usually it's these young talent that will go through and do just some crazy series of maneuvers. And it gets a crowd pumped a lot of times when they see it and stuff like that. But the problem that we're going to talk about is that in some cases, the whole match is that, versus just one particular spot. It derived where it was said we're going to have this one spot where you're going to do this. And then it turned out, nowadays the entire match is one gigantic spot. And it's like, I think our problem is that sometimes it looks scripted in that sense. It looks forced in the sense that it's not organic. It's not off the cuff. It takes away from that individual talent from being someone that reacted to his environment and performed this move. So we're going to talk about that today in comparison to regular wrestling. We grew up, and once again, if you've listened to the show, a lot of us, grew up watching wrestling in the 80s, and you watched wrestling matches. We watched guys perform headlocks for minutes at a time, leg locks. We watched people work on certain body parts where you might say, well, this was a boring match, but what we were watching was a strategic breakdown of their opponent, i.e. someone like the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, who would work on the arm, Ric Flair, who would work on a leg, etc. And just we would watch them strategically have a game plan, and we'd watch it unfold to us. Whereas nowadays, you got guys, and there's a lot of guys that are mentioned in it. We were just talking off the air about the Young Bucks, who mistakenly, I think, they call them spot monkeys, but they're really not. They have a lot of talent, and they perform a lot of moves, but they tell stories. And I think what we said was that the spots themselves are not storytelling. The spots themselves are to get a pop off the crowd, but then you need to be able to carry that pop. And where is it lacking, guys? Anybody chime in?
I have a question.
Yeah.
As just a fan, I've never been in the ring, as you four have. Can you explain the difference between a spot and a sequence of moves that, I look at cable wrestling, Monday Night Raw, where you have a 3-minute match and you need to get somebody over this, that, and the other thing. Back in our day, Dan, you had 15-minute matches on TV.
Yeah.
And you could tell a story, and then
that
you
was
could do
short.
a sequence. Right. So I would like to get a better understanding from you guys about what the difference is between a spot match and then a match that has a sequence.
Well, without pulling back the curtain too much, I don't think. I think it comes back to psychology. Like, to me, some quote-unquote spot wrestlers don't have psychology to it. Like, when you're doing, from a from a psychology standpoint, like, I'm going to take your arm, I'm going to work it. Suppose my finisher is some sort of like Fujiwara armbar or something. I'm going to do things to soften up the joint. I'm going to manipulate your joint. I'm going to wear your arm down during the match.
Fingers,
Be
wrist,
it if I like put you in like
Right.
a hammerlock slam or something. I'm doing all that work the whole match to get to my finish, to where your arm is so worn out you have no choice but to tap or say I quit. A spot match would be like, you're throwing missile drop kicks off the top for no reason. You're throwing clothesline. The guy's taking back foot bumps off it.
No
every
specific
single
part.
time. Like there's no build. There's just spot,
Just big move.
pop. Like save the pops for the crowd. The crowd doesn't need to be going off like fireworks on the 4th of July for every single move that's in a match.
Of every match, yeah.
Like let it
You
build.
burn
It
out.
makes the pop that much more special. But the problem is, this day and age with the audience, they don't have an attention span. I think it's our culture as a general.
It's
We're
that
so quick
Sesame
to pick up.
Street mindset.
We have a cell phone on us at all times. That the world is at our fingertips. If we get bored, I do it when I watch Netflix. I'll pick my phone up and I'll forget what the hell I'm watching on TV because I get lost in the wormhole of Facebook or something like that.
Well, wrestling has developed a wrestling version of ADD wholeheartedly.
It's a video game.
It really is. Like I remember watching. If you guys remember watching, it was on Worldwide Wrestling. It was Ric Flair versus Barry Windham for the
1
world
hour?
title.
Yeah.
1 hour time limit draw. Barry was the U.S. Tag Champ with Garvin, and he challenged Flair, and it went the time limit. And they would say, "Oh, we have standby matches if it should end early or whatever," but it went the whole time limit. And if you look at Ric Flair's original box set, it's the white covered box set, it's the non-WWE one. That match is on there, so you can watch it. I was showing my nephew at the time, he's not with us anymore, but he would have been in his mid-20s now. So you can imagine his mindset as where he was programmed in wrestling. We were 7 or 8 minutes into the match, and they practically didn't even tie up yet at that point.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What's going on? Like, when is this going to end?" I said, "This didn't even start yet." I'm like, "You don't understand. This is an hour-long match that doesn't even come to a finish. That's the biggest thing about it. Like, they needed more time to get it done." And he couldn't understand it and was like, "You got to be kidding me. This is fucking crazy. It's too much." And I think maybe and it goes back, you said it on another episode about how TV is now versus how TV was back then. And we're like, we have 2 minutes
Right.
for this promo, and you have 4.5 seconds for this.
Right, and that was
thing.
my main question, because it seems like now, we all know Cena's chain of moves to end the match. The backdrop, the fist, the
Yeah.
attitude adjustment. We all, and as Nakamura gets more and more over, we're knowing his moves. AJ Styles has the same sequence, and it's like, okay, well, if they had to squeeze a 20-minute match into a 11-minute TV time match,
Yeah.
and that's kind of that was kind of my question, which of course was
But
answered pretty well.
it's always been that way. Like if you look at Bret Hart had the Manhattan drop. He had the elbow from the middle turnbuckle. He
right.
had the Russian leg sweep and then the sharpshooter. Well, he stomped the groin, then hooked the sharpshooter. And it's always been that way. It's always been like what do they call it, the 5 moves of doom. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
You have your specialty.
Yeah.
Each
But
move
now
sets the
these
next up.
spot moves, I guess
But the crowd
they're
knows
bigger
it's coming,
home
and
run.
that's
Right.
when you tease
That's
hook
half the
spot
excitement.
or be the finish.
Yeah.
But I think it's even different in a sense, like, because we talked about it, like the worm, as an example. I said, what a
Ugh.
completely dumbass move that the guy's got to be so incapacitated that it allows this guy 12 minutes to get through all his bullshit to finally come down and just give him a chop, or whatever the case was. And yes, that's like a spot in a sense, but it's not in the spot in the sense of what happens today. Like he was saying, they're trying to make fireworks happen, and maybe they're not giving themselves enough credit to say, well, I can work this crowd. I mean, if I wrestled LeGrande, and LeGrande always taught me, because he trained me, he always taught me how to work an arm, how to work a leg, how to break somebody down. It wasn't like you're going to jump from this idea to that idea to this idea. You have an idea. Don't look like you have no idea what you're doing. If I'm going to go at, if I'm going to go at like Angus, and Angus is known to be a fast wrestler, I'm going to probably want to take. I'm going to take his legs out. You know, I'm going to have, like he said, a psychology to what I'm doing.
Yeah, like if you're in there with a cruiser, you take the legs out.
Yeah,
You can't fly
I need to
anymore.
ground this
Giants
guy.
out the tree down.
That's it.
Right, I need to ground
But
this
also,
guy.
it also gives you that, like, somebody makes a mistake and you get to capitalize. So there's some more
Went to the
storytelling.
well one too many times.
Yeah, like now you start chopping on his leg because he
Right.
missed the drop kick or something.
But I was watching something where the sequence of moves that probably was like, I don't know, 11 minutes or something like that. But this one guy, they were going back and forth, they were running the ropes, and they were jumping, and they were leapfrogging, and they were flipping, and they were doing all this other stuff. And then he threw him out of the ring, and then he came out and they did a 450 splash, and then he does it. And at one point, I was like, at what point is this even safe? Because that's my thing. That even when I brought up this topic for the show to begin with, was they're pushing the envelope and feeling this need to make this pop happen continuously, to the point where it's like these young kids are never going to even make it somewhere because they're going to be hurt to the point of being out of wrestling.
The bump cars.
or
You know.
after that match, what comes next? Like how do you go up from here?
Well-
Or what's the next generation bring? If these spots are this generation, what comes next? People are just going to like carry swords or something. Like
Yeah.
where do you go from here?
Right,
I'm gonna
exactly.
Walk into the ring.
You always
got
gotta
to
save something
Yeah,
in your back
that's my
pocket.
spot.
Blow you away.
Yeah, that's my spot.
You know. Now, if you sit there like Orton
High spot.
will pull the RKO out of anywhere, much like DDP used to do with the Diamond Cutter, that's cool. That's your move, but you're adapting it to your situation. Okay.
Yeah, that's part of that capitalization.
But like you go back to Cena with the 5-knuckle shuffle and this, that, and the other thing, and it's like, all right, dude, just enough. You
People
know,
pay to
it's-
see it though, man. You have to give it to them.
and they do.
And Cena does the same thing that you had all the other guys do. You had Hogan back in his day. You know he's going to get punched in the mouth 2 or 3 times. He's going to start to shake and it's going to stop working. Then he's going to turn around and point at you and go, you!
Yeah,
Yes,
You
yes,
know
yes.
that's happening.
That you was a 5-knuckle shuffle. Everybody waits for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're absolutely
Makes the
right.
heels look stupid. Like, why didn't I prepare for this? I knew it was coming.
Why didn't I break his finger?
3 punches, throws you into the ropes, big boot, here comes the leg. You know,
Exactly.
everybody has it.
And you know what? I didn't like it back then. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, though. But I didn't like that either.
I don't.
You
like
know what I mean?
that
Even
style
back
of
then,
wrestling
it was
either.
like, it was just,
There's a place for
It's
it.
cartoony.
Sure.
it is
but-
cartoony, yeah.
But, you know, when it depends on what you're trying to market your product to, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but on that same card, you would have like we were talking about the previous episode about Perfect and Tornado. That was there for us. That's what we enjoyed. But then there was Hulk Hogan and Warrior for the people who enjoyed something else.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was villains there that people enjoyed. Like they do a decent job of bringing everybody around, I guess.
Like, to modernize it now, like you could equate it to, like, there's something on the card for everyone,
Right.
for every style of wrestling fan. But I think the problem is that that's the problem. I think that you need to, like WWE is all over the place. Like, for me to see what I want to see in a card, I've got to sit through some real drivel.
Yeah.
Like, thank
For
God,
one match.
Thank God the Punjabi prison was the main event, because I could just shut that
Go
off.
home.
I'm done. Like, the whole crowd left in Philly that
Yeah.
night.
After the trust the process.
But
man.
like you watch a New Japan show.
yeah.
Like, that is the perfect example to me, because in my opinion, they've really Americanized their product a lot. And like you've got guys like Will Ospreay and Ricochet who are doing your quote unquote spot matches, but in the same card you've got Okada and Omega who are telling the most incredible story we've seen since Steamboat Flair.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And
So like there's a spot for that, and New Japan has figured it out, and I don't understand why WWE can't see how this is working and the success that New Japan is having, but they can't seem to find the even ground. I think it's just a stubborn.
they don't
mindset.
see it as a monetary investment for themselves.
But I think that kind of thing would improve ratings. Like I'm an unapologetic Indies fan.
Right.
I love PWG. I love Progress. I love all the indies I can see, and a lot of that comes with watching a lot of spot wrestling, quote unquote. And I think WWE needs to move towards that. Like, they have this cruiserweight division, which is dying in front of us every
yeah,
week.
on its feet.
Other than Neville, and arguably Tozawa and Austin Aries,
Jack Gallagher's
they're not
gone,
even there
yeah.
anymore.
Gallagher's a
Aries is
draw.
gone.
Well, Aries is gone, but what else do you look forward to in that
Gallagher.
division? That's not when I think cruiserweight. I think that first hour in Nitro.
Yeah,
in the 90s.
yeah.
And but they figured it out. There was high flying. Then you had guys like Jericho and Malenko who would do like more of the mat work, hold for hold. Then you had Guerrero, Mysterio, Psychosis, Super Crazy.
If I was them too, and we'll talk about this more in a minute because we're going to break in a second. But I would, instead of separating them, because you ever notice they separate them so much they even change the rope colors and stuff like that. I would just integrate them throughout the matches. Maybe every other match is a cruiserweight match, or at least for like 2 or 3 matches. That's all. It doesn't have to be crazy. They have 3 hours
in a row, so that way you can sink your teeth into it.
Right. I mean, but so that 205. What is it? 205 Live is not the only real way to see them.
I've never watched it.
I've never
watched the first one.
I don't have time.
And then,
yeah, right. At that time, 11 o'clock, I just got done watching 3 hours. I'm done.
10 hours of content a week. It's a little too much.
My
kids.
But we're going to talk about this more. We're going to break away for just a second, and when we come back, we're going to be talking more about spots versus regular wrestling right here on That Way Cool Wrestling Show.
1974, Cannon Entertainment has been serving the tri-state area, providing professional musical entertainment to thousands of our customers. Cannon Entertainment doesn't just play music, we are professional musical entertainers. We have personality, talent, and each DJ has a minimum of 7 years experience. We are especially trained for events like the one you're planning. We will customize your event to make it everything you want, and we'll give you our many years of experience to make it even more. Don't gamble with your affair. Be sure to choose the best. Cannon Entertainment. Check us out on the web at cannonentertainment.com. Call us now.
That's right. Make sure you call them at 610-449-8908. Tell them you heard about it on That Way Cool Wrestling Show, and you'll probably get nothing off. I'm just going to tell you right now. but definitely check out Cannon Entertainment. Much props to them. They are the host of That Way Cool Wrestling Show here. But getting back to what we were talking about, we were just mentioning about Johnny was talking about New Japan and how we integrated, they know how to really work and tell a story. And we were just saying about the cruiserweights, why can't they be integrated? When you mentioned Nitro, they were throughout the show. I mean, granted, it was the first hour. You kind of it was unofficial. It wasn't say WWE is very, very segmented, and what you're watching at that point. Whereas I think Nitro flowed a lot more. Things just were happening.
It was more a part of the actual show.
You know what I mean?
Part of Nitro.
It really was. It wasn't
separated.
And the talent.
He touched upon it earlier with New Japan figured it out.
Yeah.
Well, you also had NXT that has figured it out. There are, and let's go back to another previous episode. We just talked about the fan base. What was the stat that you said? 75%.
Something like
over
that.
40.
Over the age of 40.
So. Here are the guys who were growing up with wrestling who are taking their kids now to see the matches. If they figured it out that they need to entertain to both the children and the adults.
Yeah.
And by having the NXT or the New Japan style pro wrestling on TV, you're going to get ratings because you're going to have the kids buy the t-shirts anyway. You're going to have the parents that, okay, I'm going to take my kid to the matches. Well, Wouldn't it be great if we said, hey, I'm going to take my kids to the matches? Like, you really wanted to go there?
Back when we were kids?
Yes, because it's come to the point where, I'm going to go check out the, WWE's coming to Philadelphia. I'm going to go check them out. Or it could be, hey, I'm excited to go because they can make it for everybody. And I don't know why they don't choose to.
Well,
if I have to choose, Royal Rumble's in Philadelphia for 4 shows that weekend. If I had to choose one show that I could go to, I'm going to NXT.
NXT, okay.
I'm picking NXT that weekend because that's a proven commodity, which seems so silly to me because when you put on a takeover the night before a big show and your quote-unquote developmental is stealing the weekend away from your main roster guys, and you're operating under the same umbrella, why is that not translating? Well, it makes no sense to me. I can't wrap my head around it.
Because there's one person in charge, and that's what they want.
And that's why I'm happy that Triple H gets it, because if and when that time comes where he takes over, I think we'll start seeing that a little bit more.
Well, yeah. I think
like Triple H is like a student of wrestling, whereas Vince is a student of, he's the master of promoting. There's 2 completely different mindsets there. Triple H has the boys' interest and making money's interest and the Fed's interest, whereas Vince is money.
Well, luckily, Triple H knows the money side and has witnessed and realizes what Vince tries to do, but then remembers. You know, it's like you ever see like someone that like goes from being a worker to a manager,
Yeah.
and it's like, hey, you forgot where you came from. Well,
Or else you have a manager that remembers and they treat you great. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what it comes
don't
down
yell at you
to.
in front of
But you
people,
can
your
compare
coworkers.
NXT to ROH's hour. ROH reminds me of Worldwide Wrestling. Back in the day, you had like one interview in the backstage. It wasn't a like theatrical, the cameras are here covering my personal conversation BS. It was more so, you know, this is me, I'm talking to the thing. The only thing they don't have is someone there, like a David Crockett or somebody like that, to interview them.
Well, if somebody there, then they just pull the camera away.
And they pull it, right. And then they have these cool matches, and they have these good matches, and they showcase their talent. I used to like watching that Elgin. What's his name?
Michael Elgin.
Michael
Elgin,
Elgin.
yeah.
Oh, my God. That guy was great. When I first started watching ROH, I'm like, where did this guy come from, and why isn't it not on TV? Like, I'm like, Jesus, you know. And they had such a great, exciting 1 hour show. And NXT does too. NXT has a great thing. The only problem I have with NXT, and I have with all the brands, is that there's too much mixed talk of everything. WWE has a really bad habit of really saying, you need to know your place, you need to know your place, you need to know your place. Why is it that we have a Universal Champion? Why can't it be a Raw World Champion and a SmackDown Live World Champion? Because they want to make SmackDown the secondary title.
Yeah, the universe is bigger than the
The
world.
universe is
Right.
bigger than the world.
Right. So,
I remember when I defeated Chris Crew for the Universal title.
you know what I mean? So, you know, and the same thing with NXT. It's like they're instead of talking, and they do a half decent job of talking about the matches at hand, but then it's like they always kind of like want to mention
Well,
what's happening, and
how
they
about
have to.
this?
I mean, it's their
We were
program.
talking earlier about giving away pay-per-view quality matches on a Monday and Tuesday. I think ROH's TV is not good at all.
I
and
agree.
does it fall to that because I'm so used to saying just because of this
Maybe.
week's Nakamura Cena?
Yeah, like when you see Silas Young and the Beer Bruiser or whatever.
I love them. I absolutely love them.
Like to me, ROH. I think Bryan Danielson. I think Christopher Daniels. I think AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe. CM Punk. Those guys. Like I'm looking at that. Like where do you fit in Ring of Honor? Like what is
I
Ring of
think-
Honor becoming?
I think
Like,
Ring of Honor really needs to do the really good matches, opponent versus opponent, on their TV to draw you into their live shows. That's where they're making their
you know,
money. Their
like,
live
that
show.
TV's not going to make me buy your.
Yeah, I
pay-per-view.
don't enjoy their
and you're
TV
still
show.
the one company selling $35 pay-per-views a month because you're not on a streaming service.
And I don't really buy into their pay-per-views because their TV, the 3 weeks leading up to it, don't sell me.
Well, it's like they almost have they do jobber matches without having jobbers in a sense.
Yeah.
But my question becomes, when you're dealing with their product as
Yeah.
well as a bunch of the other ones, what's putting you off from that? Is it the fact that you get a lot of mat wrestling
No.
type things,
No, I like
or is
mat
it the
wrestling.
fact that you get all these super spot click, 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 click?
You know what?
click,
Honestly, I
click?
think it is. I think it's Vince giving you pay-per-view matches Monday and Tuesday, and then, I mean, I grew up in the '80s, so I'm used to seeing the Warrior versus the Brooklyn Brawler, just as an example.
Right.
And I grew up conditioned to that, but I guess maybe my mind's been conditioned to where I'm used to Superstar A and Superstar B, and now I watch ROH TV. It's already a little low budget.
Like, we should have never gotten Cena Nakamura for quote unquote free on just some random Tuesday during the summer where ratings are the lowest to begin with. Like that's a Mania match. That's,
Well, maybe that's why, because the
like,
ratings
that's-
are low.
That's Mania.
They're trying to
That's
build it
Survivor
up.
Series. That's SummerSlam. You don't throw it like on a throwaway pay-per-view like Battleground or even episode.
But you know what though?
SmackDown.
You can't raise the bar and then lower it again.
No,
See,
that's the
that's
thing.
what
They have
happens.
those
You can
matches every
always
week.
go up. You can never go back down.
Yep.
And I think that's where this comes down. You just mentioned where ratings are low. Maybe they're trying to
boost them.
boost the ratings, but it's not going to necessarily work because, you know, now with the network, you know, I'm not even concerned about.
You can always go back and
Exactly.
watch it.
I
if
can
you
always go
wanna-
back and watch it.
Like
Whereas
$10
the,
a month is nothing. I'm going to keep that subscription regardless of how dissatisfied.
and I can watch the pay-per-view a month from now. at my own time. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm not even really concerned.
What does it matter when and where? It's a matter of you can get it at least.
Yeah, I can get it at some point. Whereas you had to pay for that 1 week. You remember back in the day, you paid like $50, and then you had like a week to get it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a little bit cheaper if you got it like after the fact, but not much.
You might get like a souvenir water jug.
Right, something stupid like that.
If you want the Suburban cable.
It's a cable. Stop. Some Delco happened up in here.
But gentlemen, to bring the topic back full circle.
Yeah.
That's what LeGrande does.
I'm still trying to get back into what is it that makes you even to bastardize this, what is it that makes you either love it or hate it? Is it when you see straight mat wrestling?
Right.
Is it when you see all these super flashy, gimmicky spots and this, that, and the other? Is it a hybrid of the two?
Hybrid for me.
The hybrid.
But is it in that one match, or is it for the entirety of the show?
In a card.
Yes.
No, that's why there's curtain jerkers, which is actually the pace of the show. Your flashy guys go out first, and you get the excitement and people up out of their chairs, and then you kind of build down, and then you start building back up again after.
Nobody wants to be match 2. Opening the show that's hot. You got to start hot.
Well, you know what? I'll equate it.
But isn't like what I'm saying is there's a place for everything on a card, and if everybody just knows their role, and you go out and you abide by, you can put on the most amazing show ever, with the right talent and people knowing where they fit in.
But you know what though? I'll equate it to DJing because I DJ for Canon Entertainment, who's hosting us here, and other companies and stuff like that. There's a thing where you don't build a dance floor and then bring it down again because it's very hard to build it back up.
Yes, and also you get in there a little early with a dinner time, the end of dinner time rush, so you can't throw in the club bangers. At
you don't play your best stuff early on. So you kind of, like you said, you have to build up to it, and I think in order for it to work, it should be a continuous build. You know, even if it kind of stales for a second, you don't want to go up and down like almost like it's bipolar.
Plateau.
Right? You plateau at least.
I feel like the workers don't talk amongst each other anymore like they used to. Be like, hey, I'm going to use a pile driver in match 5. Like, they gave me the right to use that. Don't use it in your match if you're in 1 through 4. Because if they've already seen it and somebody kicks out of it, that kills the move. But if match 5's finish is a pile driver, then why am I believing that guy should be put away with a pile driver when that guy in match 2
but now I'm wondering,
got right up at 1 and clothesline?
But I'm wondering who has the decision-making ability, though? Who has this decision ability to sit there and say, "Hey, I want to call my match"?
It's a promoter. He's got to step in and be like, "Listen,
with the road
agents
this
as a finish. You're going to use this as a finish," and it starts on the indies, and it goes all the way up.
And you know what? We don't actually say too much about it, but the road agents have a lot to do with this. And in most cases, the road agents are former talent, they're workers and stuff like that. And from what we know, the agents that we do know, they're great talent. You're talking about Arn Anderson. Talking about Dean Malenko. Fit Finley. I mean, these are guys that had great matches. So you would think, psychology-wise, they would know, all right, if I'm handling match 3, 6, and 7, then I need to organize my stuff. In
all honesty, though, those guys' hours are different. It's you have spotty matches. No. And Arn Anderson would break people down.
Right. But I think is it one thing to have a spot versus to have a spot match in the sense where both guys can't chain wrestle to save their life. The only thing they do is this explosive thing in response to an explosive thing in response to another explosive thing until eventually somebody gets pinned. And even that pin is for lack of a better term, exciting because the guy is barely being pinned.
Well, you know what I mean? Today, the most exciting finishes in wrestling come from out of nowhere without somebody hitting a finish.
That can go back.
Cool boy. Yep. Oh my God, he got him. He caught him off guard.
Like some sort of little roll up.
I don't want to see the formatic Superman punch into the hoo-ah, into the spear, and then the 1, 2, 3. At that point, I'm already done. I'm checked out of the match. Like when I start to circle back
the motions, go through the motions.
The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and then boom, there's the 5th. We're done. Out of here.
Well, and now go back to Cena Nakamura this past week. How many times was he going to give him the attitude adjustment? And it goes back, and I got so annoyed because I'm like, This should have been it. If that's his finishing move, it should have been done. You know, and it took 3 of them. It was almost 3, and then he got out of it.
But you use that as a way to build up your.
But at the same time, the Okada Omega going for the one-wing angel and the Rainmaker, those guys are like the way Kenny smacks the hand down from the Rainmaker and stuff. Like those guys did amazing stuff working out of each other's finishers.
Like go for your finish, but don't hit it. Find different clever ways to escape it.
Right, that's
Yeah,
my
I'm
thing.
studying my
If you don't get
opponent.
the chance, if I try
don't
6
keep hitting
times,
it.
right? If I nail it, I'm screwed. I'm screwing myself because I'm making my
you
move
can
look
even
less.
nail it
One
off
Canadian
balance.
destroyer pile driver per match. Nobody should ever kick out of that.
Right.
You're landing on the top of your head.
Absolutely, 100%
Brainbusters.
correct.
Don't kick out of brainbusters. Don't kick out of DDTs. Anything where you're spiking your head into something, do not
get back up.
Keep your shoulders to the mat.
Yeah.
Stay down for 10 count and have the referee help you to the goddamn back. Don't pop up.
I mean, unless you're the missing link, and you're getting your head
Or
back.
junkyard dog.
Or junkyard dog, or a Samoan.
If you're getting
Caveman.
If you're
Or a
any
caveman.
Samoan whatsoever,
Or a caveman.
or a caveman,
else.
Yeah.
or a caveman. That's right.
But if you're just some white dude taking a DDT or a sick flip pile driver, stay the fuck down.
He's just some white dude pulled randomly out of the audience.
White people, we have soft heads. We
Very
have
true.
soft spots.
Damn.
It's because we were nurtured that way. So, it's so stupid.
Silver spoon syndrome.
Well, I don't know. Do we even come to a conclusion with this? I mean, I don't even know. We've gone on such a tangent, but
We're gonna name this show.
I like
instead of
spots.
We're gonna name it Random.
random. I
So
like.
who's your favorite spot wrestler? If you had to pick one, like who's the guy that can also he can do the fireworks, but he can give you the psychology?
Okay.
That's
I don't think I have one. To be honest with you,
That's
I
a
don't-
tough question.
It is a
Really
tough
is.
question because there's a lot.
There's a lot of guys who go out there
and do it all.
weekly who could just run.
Go 110.
Their cardio's for days.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna make a weird
Yeah.
argument for Roderick Strong,
Oh,
but I do not want to put him in that spot category because that dude can tell a story, but his offense is flat.
It's
His
fluid.
offense is
It-
completely fluent.
The backbreaker.
I
I've never
just
seen
never
somebody with
considered
that
him a
finesse.
spot guy.
I haven't either, but if
'Cause
you
there's
boil it
psychology
down,
behind
I'd say
spots.
I'm going to say something. I'd say probably Jay Lethal.
oh, I don't call him a spot guy.
No,
Yeah.
now
I mean I think he's a
Jay
good
Lee's
hybrid.
Old school and a new school day.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's a hybrid. He
He's a
definitely
worker and
does
a half,
spots.
Well,
but
he
he's
hits
not,
spots.
He's not a
within his
spot
psychology.
monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a spot
He's
monkey.
like a Blue Blazer Owen Hart, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, he can work many facets.
And the funny thing is too, if the spot monkey terminology came really like on social media and stuff like that by the Hardy Boys,
Did Kevin Nash create that?
and I
Think so.
Vanilla
think
spot
so.
monkeys?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I think the Hardys, not so much Matt, but more Jeff. Jeff's a spot wrestler,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
He said it.
So, but we once again we're out of time, guys. We could talk about this forever. Make sure you go to That Way Cool Wrestling Show on Facebook, thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com. You can check out season 1 on there, and you're going to be able to check out a lot of stuff. We're going to get these shows up on Facebook and social media. For LeGrande Jackson, Mark Lindsay, and the brothers McIntyre.
Thank you so much,
Hit him with the
gentlemen.
hind.
No more Canadian destroyer kickouts.
No more. That's it. Until next time, we'll see
Hey,
you.
if I was going to have a
Yes?
if I was going to have a wedding, who would I use?
You would want to use Canon Entertainment. That's right. Canon Entertainment has been making
Why would you have
events
a
a
wedding
blast since 1974. Go to CanonEntertainment.com or you can call at 610-449-8908. Ask for Rob and tell him that Way Cool Wrestling Show sent you to him.
Does
And they'll say,
Canon-
who?
Does Canon Entertainment get you out of gym memberships as well? We gotta get
He would have
Charles
to get.
back here.
If you knew who ran this, he doesn't go to a gym. So I don't think he knows anybody at the gym to get Charles out of the gym contract.
He's worn out more treadmills than a mainline housewife has worn out mattresses while her husband's at work.
Well, anyway,
Yes.
That is the Betsy.
for the brothers McIntyre, Mad Mark
you,
Lindsay, and LeGrande Onslaught Jackson, my name is Danny J. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Goodbye, everybody.
The proceeding was produced by DJB Productions. Go to www.thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com.